No keeping score in Tallahassee this afternoon, so no winner, no loser. Probably a good thing there at Florida State. 3 wins and 6 losses last year. Not looking good at all in 9 games, excluding the big win against North Carolina, of course. But much work to do for Mike Norvell and his staff. We saw a sliver of what they accomplished possibly this spring at Doak Campbell Stadium this afternoon in the Florida State spring game. Welcome to the voice of college football here at MarkRogersTV. Great to see all of you. Yes, New King God, it's all good. What's good with you as well? We welcome in fan bases from all over the place. Just in what I see right here, Florida State, of course. The Gators of Florida, represented by George. Of course, we've got Miami repped and others as well. So welcome in. We're going to talk Florida State football. And as long as you're on the line and as long as you are the producer of this show, which you are, you understand that. You produce this show with your comments in the live chat. And when we open up the phone lines with your calls, you produce the show. But we're going to lead off with Florida State football. But, of course, the Knowles just stepped off the field there at Doak Campbell. And I will give you my thoughts. We hope to be joined by some Florida State guests. And, of course, I'm going to hear from you. So let's get to it. John Sarian, good to see him just jump into the live chat as well here at the Voice of College Football. Please share these videos out on social media, and we go live. Just send the people that follow you on Twitter and Facebook, just send them the link. Or if you don't know where that link is, just MarkRogersTV.com. MarkRogersTV.com, that redirects everyone right here to YouTube. All right. Bobby Miller, go Canes. Number 5 coming up. Number 5 coming up. Number 5 coming up. Number 5. 5 national championships currently. We talking 6, Bobby? We referring to national championships for the Canes? Possibly. Before we continue, I'd like to remind everyone, check out the ticker at the bottom of the screen. Shop Amazon. When you do, please use the link in the description section that we provide. Fresh 3542, FSU sucks. Yes, they did in 2020. They even did in 2019 and 2018. But it got as bad as it can possibly get, we think, in 2020. But if they don't play any better in 2021, if they don't play better football in 21 than they did in 20, their record's going to look worse. The schedule is the toughest in the conference. The toughest conference schedule you can have, playing in the better of the 2 divisions, the Atlantic. And then on top of that, they play the 2 best teams in the other division, North Carolina and Miami. Then on top of that, they play the 2 toughest non-conference opponents that anybody else in the conference has. Nobody else plays the non-conference slate that Florida State meets this year in Florida and Notre Dame. Notre Dame at the beginning, Florida at the end, of course. So Florida State plays the toughest schedule by far in the ACC. Give up football. Let's not take it to that extreme. Let's not go that far. Fresh 3542. Even if you hate them, you need somebody to play. Mr. HD, it's going to be a long season for FSU football. I tend to think that myself. Not making a prediction now. I think 6-6 would be an accomplishment. There are 5 games that Florida State, unless they improve tremendously from last season, they will not win unless they have an aberration of a game like they did against North Carolina, where they were not anywhere close to the Heels level last year, but on a given night at home, when they made a lot of free plays on special teams and defense and took a huge lead at halftime, were able to scrape by and hang on for the upset win. Aside from that kind of aberration, unless this team improves considerably, they will automatically lose 5 games. Clemson, Miami, North Carolina, Florida, Notre Dame are losses. unless they improve drastically. They have the talent to improve substantially, decidedly. I don't know if they have the talent, not just the talent and the units playing together at this point. Again, based on what we saw last year, they will have to improve. Oh man, they will have to be so much better to compete with those 5 teams. And then the other 7 games, I would say only maybe 2 to 3 of those games are locks, and the others are not. Wake Forest, Syracuse, Boston College, those teams are not locks at all. They got blown out by Louisville last year by 32 points. North Carolina State obviously is not a lock. They're better than FSU right now. North Carolina State, we saw their spring game. I DVR'd the spring game for North Carolina State. I only caught a little bit of that. They had a ton of their top players not playing in that game. Could be a long season for FSU football, Mr. HD. Of course, my predictions will come out in late August. I believe my early top 25, which Florida State's nowhere close to that. Celebrity coaches, yes, I was not invited. Nor did I see Logan Robinson. I would expect in future years, when the voice of college football blows up, that the likes of Jason Parker, Logan Robinson, big game James Coleman's probably already there at that celebrity level for Florida State, that they could be invited to be guest coaches in the future. Once the budget expands at the voice of college football, when we get there, then I'll be showing up at these spring games, possibly. Yeah, maybe it's not really worth it. It's only taken me one spring game, that meaning the Clemson game last week, to then kind of back off, see a couple plays. Oh, yeah, these are spring games. They don't mean anything. I love having something to talk about regarding college football. That's nice, but it's spring football. And in this case, no winner, no loser. We don't need a winner or loser anyway. The guys are out there working. All right, we got Adrian coming in here from Seminole 863. Adrian, can you hear me, man?
Yes, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Finally, some expert analysis here. These people have had minutes. This is what we're looking for. Now we get cranked up with the real stuff. So, Adrian, I've got a list of notes here. We're going to do those in a second. But, man, I want your opening comments just about what caught your eye, what meant something to you this afternoon.
I thought it was good to see Milton throw the ball. I thought Milton looked pretty good on a lot of those throws. I think Jordan Travis has improved a lot since last year, too, from what I saw. But, again, it's the spring. We're not taking too much from the spring. So, got to, you know. There's not much to take from 2 quarters of, like, real football, to be honest with you. They only played for 2. They did some stuff there at the end that I don't think anybody really paid too much attention to. Yeah. What I wanted to see, I saw. I thought the starting O-line did its job, and that we're actually down our best offensive lineman, who will be back for the fall. So I think that was something to really look forward to. And I thought the quarterbacks looked good. I thought the freshman receiver looked very good. It probably looked like he was the best receiver on the field, to be honest with you. And Malik Mclean, I thought all the running backs looked fairly good too. So, you know. And defensively, I think we looked solid. I think defensively we looked solid. Jermaine Johnson was wreaking havoc until he looked like he tweaked the knee or something there, and they took him out, which was a smart thing to do. Then he didn't play anymore for the rest of that. But at the time he was on the field, he definitely was all but unblockable. So that's another thing to look forward to. What'd you see?
Well, the first thing that you hit on was Mackenzie Milton. So he made about 3 passes that were like top shelf, top level passes.
Absolutely.
No question about that. He had the back shoulder touchdown throw to the left pylon. That was just the timing was perfect. Threw it exactly where he needed to throw it. The one in the seam was that
the one where he threw it over the two defenders.
Threw it over the two defenders.
Who was that to? That's a good question. I don't remember who that was to either, but it was a really good throw.
He had one early to Malik Mclean because I wrote down McLean because obviously McLean had some other plays that and I think that was Brian Robinson. He had a nice throw to him. No, that was the one down the right. So he went down the middle. He went to the left. He went to the right. The right throw. The defender had decent coverage, really good coverage, and he hung it up for Brian Robinson to pull in. That was well thrown ball. He had 3 balls on that drive that were exactly where they needed to be. That was nice to see because I've been hearing, and again, let's not blow things out of proportion. You hear a lot of things that comes out of spring ball that he's been a little bit rusty.
But I think that's to be expected. He hasn't played football in 2 years.
Sure.
I don't know why people made such a big deal out of it. Just me personally. I mean, you expect them to be rusty. You see that they're really trying hard to develop Rodemaker. But Rodemaker's got a long way to go. And it's fairly obvious there. But they're giving him a ton of snaps, so it made sense when I was hearing in the spring practice leading up to this game that Rodemaker was getting a lot of snaps. Well, I mean, I think you kind of see why he was getting a lot of snaps because he needs a lot of work.
Yeah. And Mike Norvell, there were several shots of him after some series pulling Tate aside.
He's coaching him hard.
Yeah, working him hard. Yeah, coaching him hard, coaching him up. If you want some more Florida State football coverage that's top notch, head on over to Seminole 863. Seminole 863. Is that pretty much the best way to search that on YouTube? Probably. I know that I just found it. Type it in Seminole 863.
Yeah, just type in 863 Seminole TV.
There you go.
Or you can type in. You probably could type in just Polk and find me too. POLK.
Got Adrian Polk on the line. There we go. 863 Seminole.
What other notes did you take though? Because I'm interested to hear what someone on the outside saw. Because I can be, I got garnet and gold tinted glasses, so I could be a little bit.
Sure. Well, see, the question I got for you is, you're throwing a question at me. I'm going to throw it right back at you, just with the offensive line being what it is. So, like, for example, last week I'm watching Clemson, and they're loaded everywhere. They're not having any issues for the most part, but the offensive line hasn't been quite what they want it to be compared to all the other units on both sides of the ball. So I'm wanting to know, how do they have those offensive line distributed between the two teams? But in this situation, it's just offense and defense. So I think a lot of the sacks, that this is the one thing that drives me crazy about this spring situation is got to protect the quarterback. I don't want the quarterbacks to get hit, but man, if they could come up with a better way to judge a sack, because guys are getting sacks, and I think 80 or 90% of them aren't sacks. They wouldn't have been sacks. They're guys that are getting blocked, that are just reaching arms out and getting jerseys. Yeah. And so that's kind of tough to tell in terms of how much the offensive line is protecting the quarterbacks. But the quarterbacks had time to throw for the most part. I know Jordan Travis tends to maybe flush to the right a little bit. That's kind of his bailout. Maybe a little bit too often, too early.
I think if we're talking Jordan Travis and just let's start with the O-line. I thought the O-line looked, again, I think when you add in that guy that we're missing, who's our best offensive lineman, I really think you have a solid unit there. I thought they played very solid for the most part. They couldn't block Jermaine Johnson, and I don't know how many teams have a guy like Jermaine Johnson, if I'm being honest with you. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing to say, oh, they couldn't block Jermaine Johnson. I mean, how many teams have Jermaine Johnson? In the AC, let's just go ACC.
Yeah.
I don't know that a lot of teams have a guy like that. So They couldn't block him, but I felt like when he finally went out the game, he got some consistency on offense and was able to do some things. Thought for the most part, you should definitely you should be satisfied about where the offensive line looked right now. That backup, now that second string O-line did not look great, but we knew that. I don't think to sum it up, I don't think anything happened in this spring game that we didn't kind of know already.
Yeah. And unfortunately for you guys, even though there's not a whole lot of Jermaine Johnsons in the ACC, if they're there, you're going to see them most likely.
That's fair.
You've got the toughest schedule in the conference by far. You've got the toughest in-conference schedule, and you got the toughest non-conference schedule. So I don't know if we get a great read on, if Florida State finishes the season 7-5, let's say, just throwing out a record, and NC State finishes the season, or any of those mid-tier teams in the Atlantic Division, Louisville or BC, finish at 7-5. Those are two different deals right there, trying to get to 7 wins against what Florida State's going to see in the tougher of the two divisions, the two toughest opponents in the other division, North Carolina and Miami, and by far the two toughest opponents in the non-conference that anybody's going to see in the ACC. As a tandem, of course, Clemson's got Georgia, but as a tandem, Florida and Notre Dame, it's not even close. It's the toughest schedule in the conference.
Yeah, that's why I think that first half is really pivotal. I still think you're catching Notre Dame at the best time you could probably catch them. And then we have North Carolina, which to me is the toughest game. I think North Carolina to me might be the toughest game outside of Clemson. If I'm just being honest on the entire schedule, I just think and some people don't even feel that way, but I feel like that's an away game. They should be motivated to kind of revenge what they saw last year, or what happened to them last year. Florida, I got to wait and see what that team looks like. But obviously, that's a rivalry game. Same thing with Miami. That's a rivalry game. And then we know what Clemson is.
Folks, we got Adrian on the line. You can catch him at Seminole 863 Seminole, whichever way you want to slice it. If you type it in, I'm going to screw that up every time, Adrian. So just forgive me for that, whether the 863 comes in front of the Seminole. But I know whichever way I typed it in, both ways, I found it right at the top of the screen. So you should be in good shape. Once again, Adrian, set me straight.
863 Seminole TV.
863 Seminole. I'm going to remember it now.
That way.
863 Seminole. There you go. Type that into the search bar and follow him back and get subscribed over there, because we found Adrian a few weeks ago and enjoyed the conversation with him. And he does a great job covering FSU. Kevin Knowles made some plays early in the ball game.
He looked good on that second unit. Kevin Knowles the true freshman, looked very good out there. Again, it was the second unit. The freshmen, for the most part, look solid. Mainly talking about that wide receiver room. Those were the freshmen that really impressed. And I think those are the freshmen that are going to have a chance to play the most snaps. But Kevin Knowles did look good. I like how he plays. He plays hard, plays fast. Kevin Knowles looked good. Let me think. What are some other names out there? Knowles stood out to me. McLean. Told Philly had a few good runs. Trayshawn Ward is really surprising me. He pretty much came out of nowhere. Trayshawn Ward is I'm shocked about how we heard it all practice that he was good and making strides. I was shocked to see it. I was shocked to see how good he actually played. He makes guys miss. He does not go down easy. He falls forward, and he was a walk-on. So I was surprised by that.
How do you expect the running back distribution to play out, or how would you like it to play out in regards to who gets the playing time and the distribution of carries?
That's a great question. Before seeing Ward, I would have, if you would have asked, I probably would have said Corbin probably gonna be your lead guy, and Toafili and DJ would kind of mix and fight for that second spot. I think you have 4 legit running backs on this roster that I'm not sure Evers you would miss a beat with whoever they decided to put out there. I still think Toafili has the biggest upside of the group. But I think they're very confident in whoever they put out there. I think they showed that.
So, Adrian, you're walking into a lot of enemy territory here. Not from me, of course. We just cover all of college football, but here in the chat, it's probably a little bit different than your chat over on 863 Seminole in terms of having all sorts of fan bases represented here, including the Gators and the Canes in particular. So you guys get your shot to leave your comments, your questions, your debate topics, your trash talk, whatever you want to leave there in the live chat, and we will answer it and pass it along to Adrian here again. 863 Seminole. Head on over there for Florida State football coverage. Just a few days ago, of course, the big news was that Randy Shannon was brought on to the defensive staff as analyst. Your thoughts about that?
Solid hire. I don't think he's there to do any. I think he's there to be what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know if mentor is the right word. I don't know if Adam Fuller needs a mentor, but he's definitely there to be a great advisor to Adam Fuller. And first and foremost, I really think he's there to open up those relationships in South Florida. Randy Shannon is a guy who's coached everywhere in Florida. He's coached at Florida. He's coached at Miami, obviously. UCF. He's been all around the state. And if there was one big criticism for Mike Norvell and that staff, especially last year, doesn't seem to be hurting him this year so far, but it was the relationships on the recruiting trail. I think Randy Shannon, gets that, allows them to get a foot in the door in some of those areas that maybe Norvell and company don't quite have ties with yet.
Wayne the Cane makes a comment here to say, voice, Norvell looks like a frustrated coach today. To be fair, I only saw 2 quarters. I hate to be the guy to interpret what people look like when their facial expressions are assertive. I am not that guy that plays psychoanalyst to say, oh, they're frustrated, they're confident, they're nervous, they're afraid, they're this. I think all these coaches, they would love to have so much more time with their teams. And they think, man, I got 15 or 16 reps in the spring. I got to make everything count, every play count. And they're just urgent. They just want to improve and take every snap and make it count.
I mean, does Nick Saban ever look happy? Does Bill Belichick ever look happy? What about Greg Popovich? Like, I'm not saying Norvell is those caliber of coaches. I'm just saying, are coaches ever really happy? Like, how is he supposed to look?
Absolutely. And again,
I wasn't a fan of it, but
I don't read into that. Don't read into that. Based on what you got out of not just today's game, but everything over the entirety of the last few weeks, and I guess they've got one more walkthrough tomorrow. Is there any part of this football team that you feel a little bit differently about, whether good or bad, positive or negative, than you did a few weeks ago?
Off of this game?
Off of this game or the entire spring session, all the news, everything that came out?
I'm pretty status quo. Like, I feel the same way I felt before. This game really didn't do much to change anything for me. They're improving in the places I thought they would improve. Some of the places that people may be down on, I got to remember they're missing certain players at certain positions still. I keep talking about this because it's a big thing that nobody or people will just gloss over, but their best offensive lineman did not play. So when we couldn't block Jermaine Johnson, well, normally that guy would be blocking Jermaine Johnson. So I got to keep reiterating that some of our best players didn't play. They were kept out for on purpose. Obviously, you rather save these guys for the fall instead of wasting them or getting them hurt in a spring game. So for me, I didn't see anything that's going to make me jump off a cliff or put all my money on, a 10-game win season, so to speak. So we're still a work in progress. I know that for a fact.
No doubt about that. We're talking Florida State football after the spring game. NC State hit the field as well earlier today. As the teams across the nation here for the next 3 weeks, we're going to see a ton of spring games, in Florida State trying to make amends off of 3-6 in Mike Norvell's first season. And unlike Miami and Florida, able to host some recruits. So that's always a big deal, to try to get them in the door, show them a good time, show them what you're all about, continue to build those relationships. Did you see a list of who was able to show up to this game?
I saw the list. I don't think you want me to read it. There's like 70 or 80 of these kids, but we got one. We already got one commit before the spring game started from Rodney Hill, a Georgia athlete / running back.
That was just today?
That was today. That was before the game started. So they got one commit. They got one commit of Georgia running back / athlete Rodney Hill. And a lot of people think could be a few more guys that pulled the trigger today.
Good stuff. Enjoy seeing all sorts of people here in the live chat. We got about 100 on the line talking Florida State football. If you got anything for Adrian or myself, I'm scanning the chat, so leave it right there. Hey, Cheryl, our number one moderator. Good to see you. I'll ask this, Adrian, if somebody heads on over to 863 Seminole, what have you released recently? What do you have over there right now?
Recently, what have I done? Well, I do my weekly show where I go over anything Florida State related for the week. I also do a Friday show with me and a couple buddies. One guy's a Miami fan, so we kind of go back and forth on that one. And just today, I was live streaming during the actual spring game. But that's about it. That's about it as of recently. Oh, and I did do a video on Travis Hunter and Miami's James Williams and how those two guys are very, very elite level talents.
All right. Ricardo wants me to run down my top 10 in the NFL draft. We're going to talk a lot of NFL draft here, Ricardo, in the next couple of weeks. We got Rick Saratella from the NFL Draft Bible coming on here soon. Do you get a lot of Miami traffic over there?
Oh, absolutely. Most of these guys I see on my own channel.
Okay.
So they don't bother me, or when they come over to my channel, they know the deal. They come with different energy, or they get checked real quick.
All right. Good stuff. I don't see anything in the live chat in particular. Yeah, who else came on through the transfer portal? You got Jamie Robinson as well, correct?
Jamie got a lot of play today, number 10.
Yeah.
Playing in the slot. One of their guys, Keir Thomas, he was sat out on purpose. Obviously, Mackenzie Milton. Parchment isn't on campus yet. That's another guy we're adding to the wide receiver room. Let me think of who else. Obviously, DJ Williams came over from the portal. Brandon Moore came over from the portal, defensive back at UCF. And we had another defensive back. His name forgets me right now, at Arkansas, that came over.
Oh, yeah. Well, if I could get my keyboard to work, I don't know why it's not connecting. All right.
So overall, I think we just, we had a different spring game than I think most teams are going to have. For whatever reason, we only did the 2-quarter thing, and then we went into some gimmicky stuff, which is fine. I think that was for entertainment purposes and whatever the case going on there.
Sure.
But again, I said it before the spring game. I didn't take it, can't take too much out of it. And so I'm not going to change my tune now just because I may have seen some things that I like. At the end of the day, it's still the spring game. So the fall is where it's going to matter. It was good to see him get a spring in, though. I'll tell you that. It was good to see him. I definitely think they are going to capitalize off of that.
So what kind of odds do you place on the quarterback battle?
Well, I think Jordan Travis improved, but I'll be honest. It's just the throws that Milton can make that I don't think Travis can make. And if Milton's able to get the playbook down, and he was playing with that knee brace today, but he actually had a pretty decent run today. Granted, it's spring. Nobody's really trying to go out there and tackle him. So you don't take that from what you will. But I just think if Milton's 100% or close to 100% and knows the playbook, I have a hard time seeing how Travis can beat him out. I just don't know if Travis has the arm level talent to. I just don't think Travis can make the throws that Milton can make. That's really where it is with me.
Absolutely. I would be right there with you. TFJ Boxing, thank you so much for the super chat contribution. Appreciate that so much. TFJ Boxing. Has Mike Norvell done anything since the end of last season to make you think any differently about him and his ability to lead this whole thing?
I think his recruiting has surprised me. I always kind of felt Norvell was a solid coach. I never thought he was a great coach per se. And I definitely wasn't a fan of a lot of the recruiting things that happened last year. However, the early recruiting, granted, it's April, so we'll take time and see how that finishes. But I do think his recruiting so far this year has actually impressed me. I mean, to have 80 or so prospects at that stadium, I think that's impressive. Obviously, you're not going to get most of those kids, but you're going to get a solid amount, I would think. I already got one. We'll see who else. I expect maybe one or two more guys to commit. So his recruiting has impressed me.
Well,
coaching,
the commitment.
I don't have a problem with his coaching per se.
Well, yeah, that commitment list off a 3-6 season, an ugly 3-6 season. Not that there is such a thing as a pretty 3-6, but we'll see between now and December how many of those hold. But
I'm with you.
To pull in the athletes that they have thus far. And that's why this season, I don't know what they need to do on the field to hold those commitments.
Well, they need to show that, for one, you got to play. Last year, we didn't even look competent at times, most of the time. You for one, look like a real football team this year. You look like a real football team. You win 6-7 games. I think you keep a majority of these kids that you already have committed. So that's where I'm at with it, Mark.
Somebody needs to fix Google. I've typed in Florida State 2022 commits like 3 times, and the top thing in the page is Texas 2022 commits. I have no idea how that works. I'm trying to find the 247 list. That's usually does the trick right there. That's all I need. Why does it come up Texas? That's crazy. Never seen that before. Anyway, we'll get I want to get a read on Rodney Hill. There we go. I'll just type him in because I couldn't remember his name.
He recently decommitted from Virginia. I think he decommitted from Virginia this past week.
All right. So he's an athlete out of Statesboro, Georgia, Bullock Academy, 45th rated athlete in the country, 247 Sports Composite, 46th rated player out of Georgia, top 500 player in the nation. And 247 Sports likes him a little bit better than the composite, 6 feet 186. Yeah, Virginia got the commit early.
Yep.
And a few other schools in the mix, 25 offers. Athlete. So that tells us either wide receiver or defensive back, most likely. One or the other.
They're listing them at running back, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Yep. I believe that's the plan at running back. So started off the day with a solid commitment, and we'll see how they finish it off.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Talking Florida State football. Head on over to 863 Seminole. You got Adrian Polk over there breaking down the Seminoles. And so check out his work. He's joined us a couple times now, and we certainly enjoy the conversation.
Absolutely. But unless you have anything else for me, I'm going to head out here.
Absolutely. If you were on the line the whole time for this spring game, you take some time off here. Take some time off. Adrian, we appreciate you stopping by. Thanks for answering some questions and giving us your insight.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you for having me on, and go Knowles.
See you soon, man.
All right.
Our man Adrian, 863 Seminole, breaking down Florida State spring football. Most of you not impressed, but of course, most of you a bit biased in these spring games. You know, we're basically seeing practice televised. So it's maybe one of 3 to 4 scrimmages that they already have that they just don't happen to televise. But this is what it would be like, something close to this, if they televised practice every day. We got to see practice every day. We'd be saying this is the most boring crap we've ever seen. So I can't wait for football. But I want to see some football. I want to see quarterbacks that have to elude the pocket and not get taken down by a tap. You know, at least make these guys tap them with 2 hands, 2-hand tag. So that's pretty awful. I was going to ask Adrian about the helmets. Did you notice the helmets? So they put all that foam all over the helmets. They're certainly not going to do that during the regular season. So they're protecting the players during spring practice and the spring game when they're going about 75%, but they're not going to protect them to that level during the season, or they're going to wear those really ugly paddings on top of their helmets. I can never see those kind of headgear without thinking of the great Gazoo. He comes to mind every time for me. Oh, TJ. Somebody helping me out here. It's for testing. They collect data from it. Okay, thank you. That is great to know. That is great to know. I'm going to look into that. They collect data from it. Okay. Isn't that foam topper on helmets used in every scrimmage by most teams? Maybe we don't get to see these scrimmages anymore. And I can't remember seeing that from other teams during the spring game that they televise. Okay, for testing. D-Rock. Yes, the mighty Gazoo. That would, of course, be the great Gazoo. Mark East. I wish college was in the fall, NFL in the spring, NBA and Major League Baseball is boring anymore. So, Mark, you used to be an NBA and Major League Baseball fan, I take it from that comment, and now you're bored with those, and you would like to see football spread out through the entire year. If we had the NFL and college football separated, then I would put some serious thought into splitting the channel. I have some NFL aspirations, certainly. Not on the field. I'm a couple of years past that possibility. and a few pounds shy and a few steps slow and on and on and on. Cheryl, the baseball season's long. The baseball season is actually, in terms of calendar length, is 1 month shorter than the NBA season. The NBA season is 1 month longer than the baseball season. All right, Ronan. Every team uses them in practices, but can't remember seeing in spring games. Yeah, no difference really, as long as they don't make the regular season. The last time I was at a spring or fall college football practice would have been 2000. The year 2000 would have been the last time I would have been at Alabama, Ole Miss, and Mississippi State practice. And back then, there were practices that I would stand there and watch the entire practice back in those days. Even in the SEC, they weren't that paranoid back then that they would let us not just watch practice, we would record practice. Now, they wouldn't let us do this every day, but based on the feedback I get from the guys that I bring on here that go to all the teams that we cover here, go to their practices during the fall and spring, they barely get to see the guys stretch and run around a little bit, see no football action that shows you anything, and then they get kicked off the field. And again, from 1994 to 2000, I was covering Alabama, Ole Miss, and Mississippi State, and we would bring our camera guys and we would videotape practice. You're right, Ronan. The paranoia is ridiculous now because they wouldn't let us tape everything every day, but they would give us a lot of good stuff to go on. We'd have a lot of great action and a lot of good videotape for the 6 and 10 o'clock newscast. A lot of downfield throws and real football. And we would just be all over the field, get ISOs of the players. We used to get some great video on the practice field. This is bringing me back a little bit. We used to get some great practice footage. I remember the first time I shot what we call in the business a stand-up at the University of Alabama. My first week at that job, I remember shooting a stand-up on the Alabama practice field. They were practicing, and I shot it right at the blocking sled. They don't let these guys get this close now. Doesn't seem like it. Now, Ronan, we would have been screwed back then without the internet for the most part, trying to rely on insider information. That I was not good at that part of the job. I did not want to be on the phone constantly talking to all sorts of people. I would get insider information just because people wouldn't want to keep their mouth shut, and I would hear it third hand or sometimes directly to me, and that's what would happen there. And we had all sorts of scandals going on when I was covering those 3 sports programs. In the span of 6 to 7 years in the SEC, covering those 3 universities, they were all on football probation while I was there. And that is no fun. That is no fun covering a college football program that's on probation, because you just have to weed through all sorts of legal dribble. It's not fun. It's not fun. BGPO Football Funk. Good to see you. I guess we should open up the phone lines. Give me just a second to set up the call-in line. That will take me just a second here. 860-499-3332.
Thank you for calling Coffin Studios host and call. Enter your 6-digit PIN number. Welcome, host. You have not started a show session in Collins Studio and cannot yet receive calls on Mark Rogers' Voice of College Football. Please visit the Collins Studio website and begin your session. Music will play until your session begins, or you may call back when you are ready. Welcome, host. You are now in the host room and can manage your call.
Here we go, folks. Call on in. We're wide open. All the lines are open. 860-499-3332. I will put the phone number on the bottom ticker there. One more time, shop Amazon. Use the link in the description section. Help us build the channel. Thank you. Again, DeAndre, thank you so much for the contribution. Always appreciated. 860-499-3332. Yeah, that was the worst time I had covering college athletics, were football and basketball teams being under NCAA probation, going through, because first of all, and before they go on probation, there are investigations that go on for months and months and months and months and months, and you've got allegations. You don't know what to believe, what not to believe, how to report it, so you're not liable for saying something stupid or going off the tracks with some type of allegation, and being able to understand exactly what's in play. And Alabama, Ole Miss, and Mississippi State were all under probation, and Ole Miss almost got the death penalty when I was covering them. And then even in basketball, at least Mississippi State was on probation while I was there. I don't remember the other two. I don't think that they were. So I had 3 football programs to deal with NCAA allegations and probation then finally, and basketball as well. All right, we do have a call coming in here at the Voice of College Football. Hey, welcome. Who's on the line?
Hey, what's up?
Not too much. What you got? Who am I talking to?
Okay, here's my thing about today's game.
Yeah, who am I talking to first?
My name is Larry.
Hey, Larry. What you got for us?
Hey, man. So anyway, I was thinking about today's scrimmage,
Yeah.
okay? And I'll say this. Like everybody's preaching, I know not everyone's I'm expecting 8 wins. But I've been going through the schedule, and I watched the NC State thing earlier. They seemed to be, they had a few options, and they looked okay. It's a scrimmage. But what I'm saying about Florida State is it reminds me of when I was a younger guy that, I watched Wally Woodham and Jimmy Jordan, the Bowden guys. And, man, the rifle, it was like the rifle and the pistol, or the rifle and the doctor. I can't remember exactly, But I really see it. I do. And I see a good improvement on the GPAs, which, let's face it, man, that's what it's really about,
All right.
in my opinion.
An optimistic Florida
What do
State
you
fan.
think?
I love it. 8-4.
Yeah. I started watching them in 76. I was born in 66. So I started watching 76. I think that was the year either Bobby came or the next one after. But,
Yes.
you know, so I've been there around a while. And my dad, you know, he did a lot of, he was a construction guy. He had some backhoes back in the day. We're talking back when there wasn't a lot going on in Tallahassee. And so I was always over there skateboarding or whatever around FSU, you know, families gone there. Anyway.
Well, we appreciate you
You wanna
calling
get
in,
back-
Larry. Glad that you're
Are you gonna
optimistic.
cut off now?
What's that,
Well,
sir?
what do you think about the team this year?
I
What do you
think
think after the scrimmage?
if you could answer me this question, if I knew that Mackenzie Milton was going to be healthy to start the Florida game in game 12, that would tell me a lot, number one. Because I think this team has to play 5 games against teams that are decidedly better than they are. So I think it would be an accomplishment to do, let's say, what you're saying, 8-4. That would mean to me, most likely, that they would beat the 7 teams on their schedule that they, I don't want to say should beat, but are very capable of beating. That they break through against one team and pull off a major upset.
Well, hey, first time ever. First year coach, you know. So, no, I'm with you, and I think you're absolutely correct. The big question is this guy going to be durable? Because we're still issues, it seems like, on the offensive line. I mean, are we agreeing there?
Well, the offensive line
Did you hear me?
has been atrocious, but
Yeah.
should be decidedly better. I believe it's going to be a better offensive line this year because they've had some upgrades through recruiting and through the transfer portal. I like that most likely we're going to see Lawrence Toafili carry the ball more and be more of the main back in the backfield because he is the best back that they have. We got to see Malik Mclean make some plays and look like possibly the best receiver on the team today.
I saw, you know, some of the old school stuff and even another podcast I listened to. They mentioned that pass across the middle was old Winston-esque, you know, that when Milton, I cannot call number 11, you know, it's spring. Anyway, I'll tell you this. I felt very optimistic, and I will go and say that we are going to win at least 7 games.
Okay, Larry. Well, we appreciate the call, and glad you enjoyed the spring game.
It's a pleasure calling. Yeah, can I call you another time?
Oh, absolutely. You call anytime.
All right, man.
For sure.
You hang in there, and I podcast. I'm gonna keep watching. You know, I was amazed that I was actually able to get through to you. To be honest,
you are caller number 1. We just fired up the lines. We've
cool.
got we're waiting on 3. We've got 3 behind you.
Well, and I'm going to continue to watch. I was number 1.
Absolutely, you were.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Larry.
Hey, you're smart guy. Let's communicate, man, because I'm telling you, I have positive. I think the whole vibe, everybody is ready to see organization. It's not necessarily winning a bunch of games. It's just seeing, it looks like you belong and you know what the heck you're doing. To me, that's the most important thing. Because it's embarrassing watching our guys go out there and just fall completely apart. You know, just false start, miss block. You know, when you make like the bloopers, they actually made the blooper for some cut blocks a couple of years ago. I don't remember last year, whatever. A couple of years ago, I think, before Norvell. And the guys, man, it's bloopers. They were blocking each other. It's just terrible. So anyway, I'll let you go, man. But thanks.
Thanks, Larry. Have a good night, man.
Call you again. Bye.
All right, D-Rock Irish is on the line. Let's get to that here at the Voice of College Football. D-Rock, what's going on?
Hey, Mark. Good evening. Hey, I was trying to get into you last night towards the end, so I figured I'd better jumpstart and make it an early one. I think you closed the lines down early last night, so I couldn't get that last call in. So I think I've learned my lesson on that one. But, just a couple of quick questions here. I happen to have a chance to listen in and watch your Virginia Tech podcast, your program. It was very interesting, too. And I was pretty surprised that Virginia Tech is not going to have a spring game. Do you know of any other football teams out there that won't have spring games this year for one reason or another?
Oh, yeah, there's a list of them. I collected a list here. I will find that. You get to whatever else that you'd like to talk about, and I will find that list.
Okay. Also, there was a gentleman on last night, and I can't remember who it was, nor would I, even if I remembered him, I probably wouldn't call him out. But as a Notre Dame fan, maybe one of the few, I'm not quite sure. I'm very objective when it comes to the Notre Dame football schedule and whether or not they should be going independent or not. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't know why people are railing on Notre Dame, because it's basically, isn't it the NCAA, isn't it the conferences that are allowing basically Notre Dame to go independent? I think the ACC had a perfect opportunity to go ahead and corral them and say, listen, if you're going to join the ACC this year, you should be going full tilt ACC, or we're not going to have you in. I'm trying to be very objective when it comes to Notre Dame and whether or not they should still stay independent or not. And I've listened to your views and very impressive on your take on it and on the take of others too. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but there's an old saying, you get what you tolerate. There's a leadership book out there called You Get What, there's a portion in the book, Good to Great, and there's a portion in it that says you get what you tolerate. And the NCAA, the college football conferences, they've tolerated this with Notre Dame. So I don't know why people are railing on Notre Dame when they're not going ahead and putting a hammer down on it. So I was just wondering what your thoughts were on that.
My basic thoughts are similar to what you just said, and I've made this known for years and years and years, is that I don't like Notre Dame not being a member of a conference in football. However, it is not their issue. We see examples of that in life all the time. If my kids are misbehaving, is it their fault? No, it's my fault. I did not raise them correctly. And so in this case, Notre Dame is doing what's in the best interest of Notre Dame. That's what they should do. They make a determination based on money, based on brand, based on their value system there at the university and inside the football program. What is best for us? Because they could join the ACC tomorrow. Obviously, the ACC would love to have Notre Dame. And I believe the Big Ten would. I think that's a bit of a guessing game there. We don't know. But because of past hurt feelings and offenses made between Notre Dame and the Big Ten, and Michigan in particular, driving the Big Ten's decision, that's an old issue. But that I believe Notre Dame, I think that college football, just like anything else that's competitive, should be structured and organized uniformly, and that would include Notre Dame, not just Notre Dame, but a decision would have to be made about BYU joining a conference in football. But it's not Notre Dame's fault. But this is the issue that we have, is that there is no governing body or commissioner over college football. Therefore, just like when the pandemic hit and every conference did whatever it wanted to and managed itself, we didn't have uniformity across the country. Therefore, nobody's going to force Notre Dame in any such way because nobody's in a position to force Notre Dame to join a conference.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, and I probably went ahead and asked you to repeat what you've said before. I just kind of reinforced what you said earlier because, when the callers come in, I get it, from an opponent's standpoint, but it's really not Notre Dame's fault. There's an institutional system or systematic institution that needs to get changed. So the mindset needs to get changed on that. I do know that the ACC, I think the new commissioner had some ties in his early years with Notre Dame. And I think NBC, their contract ends with Notre Dame in 2025. So that's going to be interesting to see down the road what's going on. And I'm fascinated with, if I caught it correctly, with your geographical locations and how that could set up real nice for conferences out there, that it doesn't have to be scattered all over the countryside. So that caught my eye on that, and I just wanted to kind of point that out as well to you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So based on the website that I'm referencing, and I got my list from, which is FBS Schedules, which is a really good website to get information like this. They've got the listing of all the spring games in college football, for example. There was no spring game in 2021. So this list isn't completely correct because since this has been posted, Penn State has decided to play a spring game. So Penn State will have a spring game. That's next Saturday, even though they're listed here as not having a spring game, along with Air Force, Florida, Kentucky, Louisville, and Virginia Tech.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, that's a good source, and I appreciate you passing that along because that caught my eye as soon as when Virginia Tech said they weren't going to have any, and I said, "Geez, I just assumed everybody was going to have one," and then I found out that they weren't going to have one, and I was wondering what other teams were out there too. So I appreciate the information, and I think one other early observation, since this is more of some feedback. I know it's all college football, but in regards to FSU and Notre Dame and the opener, this is just me, and I know it's early, but I think Milton would start, and I think if he struggled by the first half, Travis Jordan surely made a good presence shown in the second half of that Notre Dame game this past year, and made it closer than what it should have been. And I just think that that's how it might roll out. I think Notre Dame's bugaboo in previous years is playing teams close at the beginning and playing very conservative. And I know that that's frustrated some Notre Dame fans out there that they played it so close that some of these teams that they could blow out and have the younger kids come in and play early. That didn't come to fruition. So I think Kelly's starting to listen more to it based on what I'm getting, and that offense is going to probably. I'm not saying that's going to take front and center, but I think he realizes the importance of how important the offense is, and not to rely solely on the defense. And we've done that for the last several years, and we've known the outcome of those, especially in those playoff games, and that has frustrated some Notre Dame fans and me included, in the fact that we do get an opportunity to go into these playoffs, and then we get embarrassed, and we get fed up with that. And I think with Kelly, with 3 more years left on his contract, I think he realized it's time to put up or shut up. and I'm probably one of the most ardent critics of Notre Dame, as much as I am as a fan of Notre Dame. I really believe that it's time that they need to produce in the next couple of years. And from what I also gathered, there's a battle that's going on with Cohn and Buckner. And I think that there was a third quarterback out there that has been sitting there for a year watching what's going on. I can't remember his name. begins with a P, but I can't remember. But it'll be interesting with the quarterback situation and the opener as well too. But I just wanted to kind of throw some thoughts and some ideas by you, and based on what you saw, and maybe this is an unfair question, and I'll leave it at this, but on a scale of 1 to 10, and I know that it's a spring season game, anything that really surprised you in that FSU scrimmage today?
Well, I will say the one thing that even though they didn't play with a scoreboard and they didn't play a game, they just played offense versus defense. Actually, that legitimizes the scrimmage in certain ways because you don't have to break up line units like you do when you play a game. So the entire offensive line was able to play in sync together against the defensive front and vice versa. So whatever was gained out of watching the Florida State offensive line against the defensive line is actually more legit compared to what we saw last week when Clemson had two teams playing. Therefore, they had to split up the offensive and the defensive lines, and so they couldn't play together. One of the most difficult things for me to judge, one of the more difficult things for me to judge during these spring games is the elusiveness of the quarterback and the pass rush, because 80 or 90% of these sacks that are called would not be sacks. So they're halting drives, and you don't know what the quarterback would have done because the hand on the jersey's a sack. I agree. I do think that the number of times that Florida State wide receivers were able to get loose in the secondary isn't necessarily that was a bit surprising to me, because I think the defense is generally ahead of the offense just overall, but also specifically for this Florida State team. But there were open receivers in the secondary when the quarterbacks had time to throw the ball. But there were a number of times they didn't have time to throw the ball, and the secondary was still exposed. So Mackenzie Milton, we've heard negatives concerning his taking quite a bit of time to shake the rust to get back to his old self. But in this game, I thought he looked rather good. There were times he didn't have time to throw the ball, but when he did, there was one particular drive he threw 3 like high-level throws consecutively. One was down the right sideline. He threw it up top, threw it right over the receiver's shoulder, who was well covered, hit him in stride perfectly. It was great. The receiver had to leave his feet slightly, but it was, right over his shoulder. He threw one down the seam to the tight end, in which there were, he threw it beautifully over 2 defenders, laid it right in there. And then he made what's probably, it didn't look the most impressive, but if you really think about the throw and what's asked of the quarterback, he threw a ball from the right hash all the way across the field to the left pylon. And the timing, when you have a quarterback who's being well guarded, well covered, and to throw it to their back shoulder right when they turn, and for the timing and the placement of the ball to be perfect, and it was for a touchdown, I was pretty impressed with him.
Well, I had an opportunity, since I live in Southwest Florida, to see a lot of UCF games. And before his injury, and I even saw the game, when I say live on TV, when he had that injury, I'm telling you, very impressive as a thrower and an equal threat as a runner. It'll be interesting to see whether or not he's going to be that elusive in the opening game. That's if he starts. And if he is, I think FSU can cause some problems for Notre Dame, being an opening game, and the intensity and the emotion and starting off on the right foot. I could see this to be a tussle. So I don't underestimate any opponent that plays for Notre Dame, because how I see it, it's almost like their Super Bowl too. I mean, this is the game. And I always said that the best recruiting tool is by winning. And, when you win games like that, that's your best recruiting tool that's out there. Just my thoughts on that. And I know I've been on the line long enough, and I know you have other callers, and it's the weekend. But, Mark, I really appreciate the feedback and the resource and the information that you provided for me. And you've done a great job. Thank you.
Thank you so much, D-Rock. Have a great rest of your weekend.
Okay, you too. You take care now.
All right, got another call coming in. We got Jenna from St. Louis calling about spring football. Hey, Jenna, welcome to the Voice of College Football.
This is actually Kenneth.
Kenneth.
How you doing, Mark?
It's coming across as Jenna. That's what we get for having voice recognition here. Kenneth, thank you so much for calling. How's it going tonight?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. Glad the football season is upon us, especially in the spring. Hope you're FSU and get a chance to see my boys in action. And I just wanted to call in and express some things.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Well, first off, I'm a big Norvell fan. A lot of the things that he says, the clips that he gets from the media, even some of the stuff back from his Memphis days, he's a very impassioned and inspirational speaker, as well as King Dillingham when explaining the offense and talking about football. You get the chance to see the in-depth knowledge that they have as a staff on football. And apparently it resonates with recruits as well. It might not resonate with the big fish yet, but we have the ear and the attention of quite a few recruits coming up in the upcoming classes. And I say all that to say this, including also amazing things about Coach Storm and his strength and conditioning staff and his knowledge and capabilities. All of these things I'm a believer in. But when I turned on the TV today and saw the product, they look small out there. There's nothing beefy in the trenches. We saw some of the DBs come up, flying up, making tackles, line of scrimmage. Obviously saw Jermaine Johnson be a terror off the edge. Still not seeing much out of the linebackers. We knew Mackenzie Milton could throw the ball. That was not anything that he wanted to question. So I'm not surprised by him looking good today, and which was basically a glorified flag football game for the quarterback. So there's really nothing I can take from it other than just being proud that the young man's back on the field, doing the things that he loves and compete.
Hey, Kenneth, I just want to make sure we're losing you. You're a bit muffled, and we're losing you a bit. So I don't know if you can do anything about that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Am I a lot clearer now?
Yeah, it sounds a little bit better. Just keep going.
Okay. Well, I don't know where you stopped, where you didn't hear me back, but I'll just keep going where I was at. I just wanted to say I was shocked to see just how many times Tate Rodemaker saw a ghost today in the scrimmage. He held onto the ball too long. There was a stretch there where he took maybe 2 or 3 sacks in a row just by not letting the ball go, and Norvell had to, jump down his back about that. I'm just really, confused where the confusion is at. Like I said, they seem like such an impressive staff. They seem to have the ear of the recruits. Everything that you hear from them about, the moves that the administration is making with them as far as allowing new positions like the chief of staff positions that Mike Norvell created, like all of these positive things. And you look out on the field and it's clear again that if Jordan Travis is not the quarterback and uses legs to avoid a lot of the pressures that this O-line is once again going to allow, we're looking at another 4-5 win season.
Well, I would hope if I was a Florida State fan that Jordan Travis would not be the starting quarterback. I just don't think he could make the kind of throws to threaten the defense. And I know that he's extremely talented as a runner, and I think he makes decent enough decisions, but I think he holds the ball too long. He tends to get flushed out of the pocket when he should stand in there and deliver the ball. And again, I just don't see the accuracy or the arm strength to deliver the throws that you would want at a Florida State at the quarterback spot, as opposed to Mackenzie Milton, who has proven already, you already know he can play the position as long as he's healthy.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's understandable, but we're just going off of what we have done for me lately type of thing. Obviously, the talent that Mackenzie Milton possesses doesn't go away with an injury, but he's still multiple years removed from the game. And, just based off his performance today, there was no contact. And throwing the ball and his ball placement, that was never a question. So I wasn't surprised to see that show up today. But last year, without Jordan Travis' legs, this is like a winless season for Florida State. So I think that without seeing much improvement in the O-line, not seeing much improvement in the strength and the beef up front, not seeing anything out of Tate Rodemaker, even if Mackenzie Milton is the starter, there's a concern that he's one hit away from Jordan Travis after being there anyway.
Sure.
So I just don't know how this team gets over the threshold of 4 or 5 wins.
Yeah, I got to say, I don't see it either. I think the hope for this program is in 22 and beyond, based on the recruiting class in 21, but certainly what we've seen here headed toward 22. If they can hold on to this class that they're starting to build right now, then if Mike Norvell can put together just a good enough season to buy himself some more time there, then the classes of 21 and especially 22 could be the game changers for this program and for him to be able to stay in the head coaching spot. But it's going to be difficult for this team to win more than 5 games, as you just mentioned, because they basically have 5 automatic losses, almost automatic losses. And that doesn't mean to say that out of BC and Wake Forest and North Carolina State and all those teams that they're not going to lose another couple games. So that brings them down to right where you have them at 5-7.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they prove me wrong. And, over the summertime, the kids hit the weights really hard and come back with, the same focus that appears to be there. The game looked pretty clean. It looked like the kids are moving with purpose and understanding. So those things are positive that I take away from it. And hopefully they come through over the summer and the fall with something, more physically imposing, because that's just my main concern, is that even if the scheme is starting to click, even if we have a quarterback who can see might run it, even if we're starting to have playmakers out on the edges, if all of those things are still there, if we're just not physically able to do it at a high level in the Power 5, I just don't see how the team can just automatically be something special. But I hope they kind of give me a special surprise this year. But I just want to thank you for your time, and go Knowles.
Appreciate that, Kenneth. Have a good night.
Thank you.
All right. Got another call coming in. Don't know who this is from necessarily. Welcome to the Voice of College Football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's DeAndre.
Hey, DeAndre. How's it going?
I'm surprised it didn't go through. I had said it. I follow all the instructions, but I guess it don't matter at the end of the day. But I didn't get the chance to see the Florida State or NC State game, but I honestly believe that NC State is the second best team in the coast of the couple of years. That's why who they bring back. Now, I know y'all know. I know people don't care for the coach at State, but every couple of years he does have a decent team that competes with some of the big guys. So I wouldn't count that as a win if I was Florida State next year. I know a lot of people high on Boston College, but I said wait to watch the game and see what really happened in the game. Hopefully they show a replay of it. As far as Florida State, I know everybody's like, well, they got Milton for 2 years. Well, what happened if Milton has a real good year and he says, well, I'm going to leave after next year, and the other 2 quarterbacks transfer out because Milton is start. this year. Because I heard Purdy is not doing too well down there for the conversations that you had with the Florida State contributors. So what happens when they transfer out and go somewhere else? So I really don't get the purpose of them taking him in. I'd rather take my lumps with the quarterbacks I have than say, yeah, not this year, but 2022, we're gonna be a whole lot better. But that's just me.
So
at the end of the day,
you would have bypassed on Mackenzie Milton.
well, yes, Mills did it. I know he got hurt twice in a row, but he's been what's this, like his 6th year? It'd be a 5th year or 5th or 6th year.
Yeah, 2016. Yep, 6th year. Yep.
Yeah. So and next year he have another year. So what happened if Jordan and Purdy both transfer? Ain't you hurt yourself because you brought in this transfer?
Well,
quarterback, if you think of the. Go ahead, Mark. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, not that you don't need depth at quarterback, but based on what Florida State is supposed to be and based on their expectations, Jordan Travis and Brock Purdy, based on what I've seen, shouldn't be the starting quarterback at Florida State. So if Mackenzie Milton starting is keeping those guys on the bench and they're dissatisfied and they're going to leave, I don't know where they're going to start. They're going to start at the group of 5 level somewhere, possibly. But if I'm Mike Norvell, I'm not wasting a season playing quarterbacks who are not worthy of a Florida State starting quarterback position just because I don't want them to transfer.
So let me ask you this. Who recruited these guys? Was it Purdy? I mean, was it Mike Norvell who brought these guys in? They couldn't play before they got there?
Let's see. Mike Norvell's first recruiting class would have been the 2020 class, but basically he was just finishing off Willie Taggart's commits for the most part. So I would think that most of the recruiting that was done to bring in those quarterbacks was from Willie Taggart's staff.
I don't know, but I don't know. I think it kind of hurts. But but hey, it's not my team, so let them for the rest of that. So Florida State will be back eventually. We all know that they're going to be back one day. I don't know what it's going to be, but they will be back.
Yeah, and all these teams are going to have issues with quarterbacks, in particular transferring, and other players. But we're talking about quarterbacks. Every team, if you're worth anything, you're going to be layering quarterbacks 3 or 4 deep in your quarterback room, and a few of them are not going to be happy, so they're going to leave. So you might as well just bring in all the best quarterbacks that you possibly can. Right. Except for your situation there at Clemson is pretty thin right now.
Oh yeah, and he seems like not to be worried about him. I heard it wasn't Jason, but it was the other guy. I can't remember his name. I think he's Rock Southland. He said he was if you can play at Georgia, you can stay healthy. We really don't need a quarterback for the rest of the ones, but I don't believe that either. But like I said, I think the ACC is better than what people give it credit for. But Florida State, Notre Dame, I don't know who Notre Dame's starting quarterback is going to be. Me?
Their quarterback's most likely going to be Jack Cohn, but this Tyler Buchanan will probably eventually be the starter. He's supposed to be the more talented player, but Jack Cohn's the experienced guy.
I'm coming.
I would say there's about a 75 or 80% chance that Jack Cohn's going to be the starting quarterback for Notre Dame against Florida State.
Okay. I want to ask you a question, and I don't let you go after this. Holy Cross, 1987. Who was the running back that got voted for the Heisman? Was it Brock Lockerham?
Gordy Lockbaum.
He went both ways. Was he good, or was he just that simple? They just put him up there. So he went both ways.
Yeah, Gordon or Gordy Lockbaum. He went by either one.
Was he good though?
Was he good? I don't think he got drafted. He was, I don't remember watching him play because nobody was watching Holy Cross play. I would love to look up his numbers. He must have just had ridiculous numbers to get Heisman attention. Let's see if I can find his numbers here.
I don't think that's what it was. I think he was the last person to go both ways.
You think that?
Like for the full game? Yeah, I think that's what it was. I think he was the last person to go both ways. There was a big I saw a short on him. ESPN short, and he went both ways that year. And matter of fact, he got the Heisman. Not got the Heisman, but he was a Heisman finalist the next year too.
He was
because of that. I think that's what it was.
Fifth and third in the Heisman balloting. I wouldn't have guessed that he was quite that high. I want to see his statistics. I can't find his stats anywhere. Yeah, that's like
I said, I think it's because. Yeah, I would wonder because I know you're a little bit older than I am, so I wanted to ask. You would have probably seen him play. And he was at Holy Cross, so it was just something I came across, and I said, I'll ask Mark about it when I talked to him.
Well, I'm going to correct myself here. I wanted to verify this. He did get drafted in the 9th round by your Pittsburgh Steelers.
Brand. Oh, wow. Sure.
Number 236. I want to see his stats. I thought he had some ridiculous rushing stats, but I can't find him anywhere. They've got his combine results. I can't find his stats. He only ran a 4.75 in the 40. He did 16 reps at 225.
I could do that now. I'm 43.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm throwing up 16 times, but certainly at one point. Yeah, I wanted to find his stats, but I can't find him anywhere.
Well, one day we're gonna have to. You have to that's how the fun. Just do his story one time and let everybody know. I think a lot of people know about him.
Oh, here we go. Wait a minute. What we got here? So,
come on.
Huh?
I'm coming. What is that?
I was trying to get you in there to get my walk. Who's that out there with you?
In Gordon Lockbaum's senior season, he rushed for 400 yards, 85 carries. He caught 77 passes for over 1,100 yards. So he had over 2,000 yards all-purpose. He scored 22 touchdowns while continuing to play defense and special teams. Finished 3rd in the Heisman, 2nd in the Maxwell. The year before, he rushed for 827 yards, caught 57 passes for 860, scored 22 touchdowns. So his last 2 years, both years, he scored 22 touchdowns, and he had 1,700 yards and then about 2,000 plus.
Okay. So you say, 2,000 yards plus?
Yeah. And he returned kicks.
Okay.
He had 21 kickoff returns for over 400 yards. So he had 2,500 yards all purpose.
Okay. All right, Mark. I'll get up with you later, man. I'll keep enjoying the show.
Appreciate that, DeAndre. Have a good night.
Okay.
All right, folks, where do we stand on all of this? We talked Florida State football for quite some time. We've been on for an hour and a half. We appreciate everybody jumping on here. voiceofcollegefootball.com. Please check it out. It's our new site. We launched about 6 weeks ago. We will soon be having all sorts of different features for you over there as well. voiceofcollegefootball.com. Get your free mask. We've got 35 teams available. voiceofcollegefootball.com. Register for free at the top of the screen. Appreciate all of you. Keep it locked in here. We recorded Penn State. We've got Texas and Oregon coming soon as well. And we'll be back here live noon with Pigskin Pete on his channel, noon on Monday. Back here at 6 o'clock Eastern time with another call-in show. You guys have a great rest of your weekend. Enjoy.